Welcome to Brooker Ceramics, and this week I've been making some stilted planters. Really enjoyed this project. Started off making a mug style base, then attaching some smaller feet to it. And it's come together really nicely. It makes a plant like this elevated. This tutorial will kind of walk you through all the processes and my thoughts every step of the way, from wedging the clay through to coning and centering and throwing it on my pottery wheel, and then finally trimming it up and refining the surfaces. So I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did, and if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. So let's dive into it. For me, this project combines two of my favourite things: creating lovely ceramics as well as plant care. Some of you may or may not know, but I have another separate channel that focuses on bonsai and the growing and care of bonsai. So if you haven't seen that, I definitely recommend it. Search for Brooker Bonsai on YouTube and you should find me. So this project really helps me combine two of my passions and creating these forms that a plant can live in. I've got lots of aspirations for when I get a little bit better, the making process, that I can then start to make my own bonsai pots. But for now, I'm just focusing on plates and bowls and mugs and things that I can give away to friends and family and get some feedback. Hopefully, I'll have my own kiln soon as well, and this will help me step up my processes and create some beautiful pieces to store my bonsai trees in. So now I've got my 500 grams of earthenware clay weighed out and wedged. What I've done is it's the right weight now, but I've also wedged it, which removes all the air bubbles. It stretches the clay as I need it, and this allows me to make sure that there's no air pockets that are inside. It stretches it and pops anything that's inside there. Also, this clay has been recycled several times as I make stuff. So by wedging it, it ensures that the clay is really consistent throughout. So now I'm going to cone and center it, and again, that helps with that whole process. It will remove any bubbles that might be missed from wedging, but also it will help smooth out the clay, make it all consistent, and ensure that all the particles are facing in the same direction. So let's zoom you in and take a look at that now. For my first plant pot, I wanted to keep it really simple and keep it contained to a shape that I already knew really well. So I took inspirations from some of the mug bodies that I've been creating, because often, once I created a few of them, I looked at them and thought, that would make quite a good plant pot. So by not attaching the handle at the end and just creating that nice round form, I'm able to create a series of plant pots that I can use to house some of my plants from around the house. I haven't quite figured out the perfect piece yet, so I'll continue to experiment with sizes and shapes, as well as some of the angular forms that you might have seen in my previous videos, where I've taken artists such as Florian Gatsby's work to inspire some vases that I've created. And I can see this work translating really nicely to the creation of a plant pot that can sit on my windowsill. I'm really starting to get used to these shapes now and finding the pottery process quicker, less messy, and a lot more therapeutic. And this helps me decompress and really kind of unwind at the end of the week. For me, pottery is not only the creation of things and applying some of my artistic skills and aspirations into work that I can then share with people, but it's also a way to help me relax and unwind and decompress after a busy week. Speaking to a lot of you online, particularly in my shorts, it sounds like there's a large ceramic community out there that got into ceramics purely for this reason too. So I know that I'm not alone, which is really nice. So you can see now the ceramic vessel form is roughed in and ready for that refinement shape. I'll need to just tidy up the lip, as well as remove some of the excess slip with the wooden kidney. I find it really mesmerising watching the clay being slowly scraped off the vessel as I go, and it goes from something that can look relatively messy and a bit kind of thrown together to a really fine, refined final piece. I often forget to pinch the rim of my vessels and have to come back in later with a sponge or trimming it up in the later stages. So it's really important to get it right because it will save me so much time later on. I'm going to set this aside now. I'm happy with the final pieces and let it dry out over a couple of days or nearly a week. So now I've got the basic pot shape all roughed in. It's time to let it dry out. So I'm going to let it dry for a couple of days, flip it, and then that will allow the base to dry out. With it being kind of late autumn, coming into winter soon, my pottery studio is quite cold, so I don't need to store this away anywhere like I would with like a plate or perhaps when I was in the summer, so that things dry out slowly. This is going to dry out very slowly because it's quite damp and cold in here. So I can set it aside, just leave it on the bench, and I'll come back in a couple of days and flip it over. So a day's passed and the mug has dried out a little bit. It's ready to flip over and then to leave for another day or two to dry out a little bit further and a bit more level hard. So what I want to do is score a wire underneath, flip the mug, and then set it aside to dry for a bit longer. A week has passed and the plant pot is now leather hard. We're mid to late autumn at the moment, so the pottery studio is relatively cold and a little bit damp. And this means that the ceramic takes a little bit longer to dry out and go leather hard. So it takes a few more days, but also what I like to do is leave it out in the open air rather than wrapping it up. Because sometimes if I put it away in the box, it can cause mold and other problems. So it's now ready to trim up. So what I'm going to do is attach it to the chuck that I made a few months ago. I keep the chuck wrapped up so it's always leather hard and I can always use it with my ceramic vessels. And when it dries out, I just apply a bit more water and then it soaks into it and it's okay to reuse. So I place the ceramic vessel onto the chuck, and this allows me to hold it more effectively on the pottery wheel. Because of the shape, when you're trimming, say, the corners or the top, it can cause the vessel to tip and fall, so having it attached to a chuck just locks it in nicely. So let's zoom you in and take a look at the trimming process. Trimming is by far my absolute favourite part of the pottery process. Throwing is fun, but it really doesn't come close to the trimming part. I like using all the different tools as well as some of the chucks or different ways that you have to use to get the vessel ready so that you can begin spinning. It takes a lot of time, and for me it feels like a puzzle that I need to put together and figure out the best way of doing it. And it allows you to take a really rough form or shape and begin refining it into something that would be a bit more professional looking. Granted, I haven't tried glazing yet or firing, but I think despite that, when I do try those things, I think trimming will still remain my favourite thing. I like how you can slowly eat down into the clay and refine the shape bit by bit, or quickly remove large substantial chunks at once. There's many ways to achieve this. Now that the pot is all trimmed up, it's time to attach the little feet that are going to come on the bottom here. So we're going to head over to the workstation and begin making those now. A close second to trimming would definitely be attaching all the different bits to the clay body. For this one, I wanted to create some little legs that would elevate the pot off the surface or the windowsill where it would be sitting. And I really enjoy, in a similar way to trimming, figuring out all the different shapes I need and how all of these will fit together as part of that 3D puzzle. I find it really therapeutic going through the process of scoring the surfaces, then creating some slip, applying the slip and sticking it all together. Once that's all done, a bit I really enjoy is taking a wooden tool to the clay body and begin to press it all down, creating that firm solution where it will really grip and hold on to the vessel. With these little legs, unfortunately, I left them to dry out a little bit too long than I would have liked, and this made it harder to actually attach these to the body of the clay. But I was able to do it. Finally, I'll come in just with a little fettle. It's slightly damp, and that allows me to smooth in all the joints as well as ensure that it's a really strong cohesive bond to the clay. So here's the final piece. I really like how it turned out. It's very simple but elegant. It will look nice in maybe a crackled green glaze or some kind of dark blue. So if you like this video and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe.